Rain slashed through the Seattle night as flashing sirens cut across the bridge. Through the haze, a black Bentley spun out of control, metal screaming against the guardrail. Maya Alvarez, a paramedic who'd seen everything, except this, leapt into motion. Inside the wreck, she found Dr. Adrian Cole, the billionaire heart surgeon who swore love was a distraction. His pulse trembled beneath her gloved fingers as lightning painted the river below. The storm howled while she fought for his breath. Adrian's lips parted, mumbling that he didn't need help, a stubborn echo of pride. Then silence. Maya pressed harder, rhythm steady against chaos, until he gasped again. The world shrank to the beeping of monitors and rain pounding her helmet. When they lifted him onto the stretcher, a photograph slipped from his coat, a woman smiling near pier, a memory soaked in mystery she couldn't unsee. At Harborview Hospital, the trauma team rushed around like a storm reborn under fluorescent light. Maya watched from the doorway as Adrian's heartbeat steadied. He looked powerful, even unconscious, the kind of man who built walls taller than the buildings bearing his name. When the nurse asked for family contact, no one answered. That hollow pause echoed louder than the rain outside, and something in Maya's chest tightened before she could name it. Hours later, the bridge was quiet, but the night refused to end. Driving home, Maya replayed the scene, the weight of his pulse, that photo, his last defiant words. Her radio buzzed with static. Then her phone lit up, an unknown number, a voice asking if she was a paramedic from a bridge. She hesitated, heart caught between fear and curiosity. The city lights blurred as she whispered hello, unaware that this call would alter every beat of her own heart. They say love can't save a man who doesn't believe in it, but sometimes fate doesn't ask for permission. Tonight's story will take you through rain-soaked streets, broken hearts, and a miracle that changed everything. A billionaire doctor who swore he didn't need love, and the woman who proved him wrong. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this story. Someone out there needs it tonight. Now, sit back, take a deep breath, and let your heart listen. Rain slashed through the Seattle night as flashing sirens cut across the bridge. Through the haze, a black Bentley spun out of control, metal screaming against the guardrail. Maya Alvarez, a paramedic who'd seen everything, except this, leapt into motion. Inside the wreck, she found Dr. Adrian Cole, the billionaire heart surgeon who swore love was a distraction. His pulse trembled beneath her gloved fingers as lightning painted the river below. The storm howled while she fought for his breath. Adrian's lips parted, mumbling that he didn't need help, a stubborn echo of pride. Then silence. Maya pressed harder, rhythm steady against chaos, until he gasped again. The world shrank to the beeping of monitors and rain pounding her helmet. When they lifted him onto the stretcher, a photograph slipped from his coat, a woman smiling near pier, a memory soaked in mystery she couldn't unsee. At Harborview Hospital, the trauma team rushed around like a storm reborn under fluorescent light. Maya watched from the doorway as Adrian's heartbeat steadied. He looked powerful, even unconscious, the kind of man who built walls taller than the buildings bearing his name. When the nurse asked for family contact, no one answered. That hollow pause echoed louder than the rain outside, and something in Maya's chest tightened before she could name it. Hours later, the bridge was quiet, but the night refused to end. Driving home, Maya replayed the scene, the weight of his pulse, that photo, his last defiant words. Her radio buzzed with static. Then her phone lit up, an unknown number, a voice asking if she was a paramedic from the bridge. She hesitated, heart caught between fear and curiosity. The city lights blurred as she whispered hello, unaware that this call would alter every beat of her own heart. The voice on the phone was calm but carried authority. It wasn't the hospital. It was Adrian's personal assistant, asking if she could visit the mansion to return a personal item. Maya hesitated. Paramedics didn't cross those lines. Yet something in her chest, Maybe curiosity on finished duty made her whisper yes. The rain had ended, but the world still felt wet, fragile, as if the night hadn't truly let go of her yet. When she arrived, the coal estate loomed over Lake Washington, glass and silence stretching across its walls. She handed the photo to the assistant, ready to leave, until she heard the familiar voice, weakened now, but unmistakable. "Wait!" Adrian stood at the top of the stairs, pale from recovery yet impossibly composed. His gaze, sharp even through pain, locked on her like he was seeing the storm again. "You saved me," he said, voice low, almost disbelieving. Maya didn't know what to say. Gratitude wasn't something she expected from men like him, men who built hospitals and empires but forgot how to thank the people who held them together. He gestured for her to sit, insisting on offering tea. It felt wrong, surreal, like she had stepped into a dream she wasn't supposed to witness. "You risked your life," he said, "for a man you didn't even know." She smiled faintly. "That's what we do." But something behind his eyes flickered. Guilt, maybe? Before she could leave, a phone rang in another room. His expression hardened. His warmth retreated behind a mask of the Dr. CEO everyone knew. "Business," he said curtly. But as she turned toward the door, he called her name again, softer this time. "Maya." She paused. "Do you believe people can change?" Her breath caught, not from the question, but from the way he asked it, as if he wasn't talking about business at all. And before she could answer, the door closed behind her. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. The sound of his voice kept looping in her head, steady, deep, uncertain. She told herself it was nothing, just leftover adrenaline. But the truth pulsed louder. People like Adrian Cole didn't ask questions about change. They commanded, they decided, they moved on. Yet something in his eyes, that fragile, unspoken ache, refused to let her forget. Outside, the city hummed like it was keeping their secret. At the hospital, rumors traveled faster than lab results. "The boss nearly died," someone whispered. "Heart attack?" "No, car crash. Some paramedic saved him." Maya tried to focus on her paperwork, but every mention of his name felt like a drop of ink spreading through clear water. She caught herself glancing at the hallway each time the elevator dinged, half hoping, half dreading that it would be him walking out of it. Days passed before he appeared again, not as the untouchable CEO, but as a patient in physical therapy, moving carefully through the corridor. Their eyes met. For a second, the hospital noise fell away. "You again," he said, smiling like it hurt to remember how. "Back on your feet, Dr. Cole," she answered. He nodded, that guarded pride softening just enough for warmth to slip through. "Maybe because someone refused to let me die," he said quietly. He started showing up more often. Checkups, follow-ups, reasons that sounded professional but felt personal. Each time, conversation stretched longer. She learned he lost his parents young, built his empire from nothing, and believed love made people weak. She didn't try to argue, she just listened. And one evening, as sunlight faded through the blinds, he whispered almost to himself, "I'm starting to think I was wrong." But before Maya could respond, his phone rang again, the same unknown number from the night of the crash. The ring echoed through the sterile corridor like a warning. Adrian's expression shifted, the calm surgeon replaced by a man haunted. Maya pretended not to notice, yet curiosity burned behind her silence. "It's nothing," he murmured, stepping away, but the tension in his shoulders told another story. She watched as he answered, voice low, sharp. When he returned, the softness was gone. "An old patient," he said, but the lie felt heavy in the air between them. Days later, she found him alone in the rehab wing, staring out at the rain. The world outside was gray, the same storm color as the night they met. "I used to think saving hearts was enough," he said quietly. But sometimes it's easier to fix a body than a memory. His words hung there, fragile. She wanted to ask what memory he meant, but his eyes, tired, beautiful, lonely, told her it wasn't time yet. Some wounds, she knew, didn't want to be touched. When he invited her to a charity gala as his guest, she almost refused. It wasn't her world. Silk gowns, champagne, the scent of money and old secrets. But when he said, "I'd feel calmer if you were there," something inside her gave in. The night of the event, he looked nothing like the broken man from a bridge. Cameras flashed, people whispered his name. Yet his hand trembled slightly when it found Hayes. For a billionaire, that was confession enough. The gala shimmered with false smiles, but Maya noticed one woman at the bar, the same face on the photo she'd found in his car. Their eyes met across the crowd, a moment stretched thin by truth unspoken. Adrian froze. The woman smiled faintly, lifted her glass, and whispered something to the man beside her. Maya's pulse quickened, questions clawing at her chest. Whoever that woman was, she wasn't just a memory. She was a storm he hadn't escaped yet. The air inside the ballroom thickened. Maya watched as a woman from the photo glided toward them, every step calculated, every smile sharp. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Her name's Evelyn," he said finally, almost whispering. "We used to be engaged." The words dropped like stones into the silence between them. Evelyn reached them, voice dripping with charm. "You've recovered well, Adrian. I see you found new company." Maya forced a polite smile, though her pulse raced. As the night dragged on, Maya felt the weight of eyes on her, whispers, comparisons, curiosity. Adrian tried to stay composed, but his gaze kept darting toward Evelyn, like gravity pulling against reason. During a quiet moment, Maya asked softly, "Why did you two end?" He hesitated, glass trembling in his hand. "She left when I built this empire. Said success made me cold." Maybe she was right. For the first time, his confidence sounded like regret. Outside, on the balcony, city lights reflected off the lake like shards of memory. Adrian joined her, the chill biting through the silence. "I used to think feelings made me weak," he said, eyes on the water. "But when you pulled me from that car, I realized I wasn't living, just existing." Maya turned to him, heart pounding. He wasn't looking for pity. He was confessing. The wind carried his words away, but she felt their truth settle deep inside her. Back inside, Evelyn approached one last time, placing a hand on Adrian's arm. "You'll always be chasing ghosts," she said, her smile fading. "And one day they'll catch you." Then she left, perfume lingering like a warning. Maya didn't ask what Evelyn meant. Not yet. But that night, as Adrian drove her home, silence became something fragile, almost sacred. She didn't know if she was falling for him or into his past. Either way, she was already too deep to turn back. Weeks passed, and their world began to overlap in quiet, unplanned ways. Coffee after long shifts turned into late-night talks. Late-night talk became reasons to stay a little longer. Adrian had never been good at silence, yet with Maya, he didn't need words to fill it. She laughed easily, the sound softening the corners of his carefully built armor. For a man who once measured life by numbers and success, her presence became something he couldn't quantify. Maya tried to keep her distance. She told herself they came from different worlds. He belonged to a skyline of glass towers. She belonged to flashing ambulance lights. But every time he smiled, truly smiled, it felt like the city itself leaned in to listen. One evening, after another charity event, he walked her home instead of sending a car. "You shouldn't be alone," he said. "I never, she replied, and yet neither of them moved away from the other. At her doorstep, rain began to fall, gentle this time, nothing like the night they met. He hesitated, searching her eyes for permission he didn't dare ask for. When their hands finally touched, It wasn't the kind of moment movies exaggerate. It was quieter, slower, two people finding something they didn't know they were missing. "You make it hard to believe I ever said I didn't need love," he whispered. Maya's smile was soft, but her heart trembled. Yet even as the night wrapped around them, something lingered, a tension neither could name. When she stepped inside, she noticed headlights pausing down the street, a silhouette watching from a car. She dismissed it as imagination, but the unease stayed. Meanwhile, back at his mansion, Adrian's phone rang again, the same number he had ignored for days. This time, he answered. A woman's voice spoke only one sentence. "You can't hide her forever." The next morning, sunlight slipped through Maya's curtains like a promise she didn't trust. She'd barely slept, replaying his words, his touch, the way the rain seemed to pause around them. For the first time in years, her heart felt light, and that terrified her. She'd seen love destroy people, patients who waited for call that never came, spouses who forgot their vows. Yet something about Adrian made her want to risk it all, even if the fall would hurt. Adrian, meanwhile, couldn't focus on anything but her. Board meetings blurred, voices became noise. The world that once obeyed him now felt too small. He kept seeing her hands, the same one that had dragged him from the wreck, steady, fearless. But behind that strength, he sensed something else, the same loneliness that haunted him. He told himself he could handle it, that this was temporary. But when had temporary ever felt so permanent? That evening, he surprised her at the ambulance bay with 2 coffees and a half-crooked smile that made her forget the rules. "You again," she teased. "Couldn't stay away," he said. And for a heartbeat, the hospital chaos faded into something softer. They talked until the shift ended, and for the first time, Maya let herself imagine what life might look like beyond survival. Something simple, maybe even beautiful. But peace never lasted long around Adrian Cole. As they stepped outside, a black SUV pulled up across the street. Its windows were tinted, engine running but unmoving. Adrian froze, jaw tightening. "Is something wrong?" Maya asked. "No," he said quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Yet as they walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Somewhere between their heartbeats, danger had found its way back into their story. Days turned into weeks, and their connection deepened like a secret only they understood. Adrian started showing up at the paramedic station just to see her, bringing breakfast, excuses, and that calm charm that made everyone smile. Maya tried to hide what was happening, but love is a way of revealing itself, in the way she said his name softer, in the way his eyes searched for her first in every room. For 2 people who had sworn off love, they were already lost. Still, the shadows never truly left. Adrian's phone calls grew frequent, his mood shifting without warning. Some nights, he'd stare out the window for hours, lost in thoughts he never shared. When Maya finally asked, he said only, "There are things I should have buried long ago." His tone was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. She reached for him, but he turned away. The distance between them was small, yet it felt like an ocean waiting to rise. One night, after her shift, she drove to his mansion unannounced. The house was dark except for the faint glow of his office. Through the glass wall, she saw him arguing with someone over video call, a woman's voice sharp, accusing. "If you don't pay, I'll tell her everything." Maya froze. Her pulse quickened. Adrian's shoulders slumped, his head falling into his hands. She left quietly, the weight of betrayal pressing against her chest like a bruise. The next morning, Adrian showed up at the hospital, eyes tired, smile forced. "Rough night?" Maya asked carefully. "Just business," he said, but his voice cracked on the lie. She wanted to believe him. She really did, but the woman's words echoed in her mind like thunder waiting to break. Whatever Adrian was hiding, it wasn't over. And deep down, Maya knew. The storm that had brought them together was about to begin again. The silence between them had changed. It used to be comfortable, filled with quiet understanding, but now it pulsed with questions neither dared to ask. Maya noticed how Adrian avoided her eyes, how his phone was never far from reach. At night, when he held her, she could feel his heartbeat racing, as if his body kept confessing what his mouth refused to say. Love, she thought, was supposed to bring peace, not the feeling of walking a cliff blindfolded. One afternoon, she finally broke the silence. Who was she? The words left her lips before she could stop them. Adrian froze. The truth hung heavy between them. Someone I trusted, he said quietly. Someone who knew how to hurt me. He didn't say her name, but Maya didn't need to ask. Evelyn. Of course. The photo, the gala, the phone calls, it all connected. Still, part of her wished she'd been wrong. Sometimes ignorance felt safer than the truth. Adrian poured a drink but didn't touch it. She's trying to destroy what's left of my reputation, he admitted. I made mistakes, ones I can't erase, but she's using them to make sure I never find peace. His voice cracked, revealing something raw beneath the polished surface. For the first time, Maya saw not the billionaire, not the doctor, but a man terrified of losing everything, including her. The fear in his eyes wasn't for his career. It was for her. Maya stood there, torn between compassion and anger. She wanted to believe him, every broken word, but part of her wondered what else he wasn't saying. Before she could speak, his phone rang again. He looked at the screen, hesitated, and silenced the call. "It's over," he whispered, more to himself than to her. But the tremor in his hand betrayed the truth. Nothing was over. Not yet. Outside, thunder rolled, and for the first time since the night of the crash, Maya felt afraid again. For 2 days, Adrian disappeared. No calls, no messages, no trace. Maya tried to bury herself in work, but every ambulance siren reminded her of him. She told herself not to worry. He was a grown man, powerful, untouchable. Yet worry became her shadow. When she finally drove to his mansion, the gate stood open, the lights off. Inside, papers were scattered across the floor like a storm had passed through and left guilt behind. She found him in his office, slumped over the desk, face pale, glass shattered beside him. "Adrian!" she cried, rushing forward. He stirred, eyes clouded with exhaustion more than alcohol. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "Neither should you," she replied. In the dim light, he looked older, smaller, stripped of all the power that once defined him. "She's taking everything," he said. "The hospital, the foundation, even you." Maya's heart tightened. "What are you talking about?" He handed her a folder, photos, documents, payments, all linked to Evelyn. She found out about a patient. "Years ago, I covered for someone. It wasn't about money. It was about saving a child. But the way it was done, it broke every rule." His voice trembled. "If this comes out, I lose everything." Maya scanned the papers, realizing this wasn't corruption. It was sacrifice disguised as sin. "I didn't do it for me," Adrian continued. "I did it for her, for the little girl in that photo." Maya froze. "The one in your car." He nodded. She was Evelyn's niece. A heart condition, no insurance, no chance. I performed the surgery in secret. It saved her life and ended everything else. The truth hit her like cold rain, love and guilt woven into one. He hadn't been heartless. He had been human in the most dangerous way. Tears stung Maya's eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "Because people don't forgive heroes who break the rules," he said softly. She reached for his hand, their fingers trembling together in the silence. For a long time, neither spoke. Outside, dawn crept over the lake, light spilling through the glass like absolution. For the first time, She saw him clearly, not the billionaire, not the sinner, just a man who had spent his life saving hearts while trying to mend his own. The morning news hit like a blade. Headline screamed, "Billionaire doctor under investigation for medical cover-up." Photos of Adrian flashed across every screen. One of him in scrubs, another leaving the hospital beside Maya. Reporters twisted the truth into poison. What had been an act of mercy was now painted as corruption. Maya watched from the ambulance bay, her stomach hollow. She wanted to call him, but what could she possibly say to a man drowning in his own redemption? By afternoon, the hospital board suspended him pending review. Cameras crowded the gates. Drones hovered above the mansion like vultures. Adrian stayed inside, blinds drawn, phone off. His empire, built on precision and control, was crumbling by the hour. Yet what hurt most wasn't the scandal, it was Maya's silence. He kept replaying her last words, her trembling voice asking why he hadn't trusted her sooner. Now he feared he'd never get the chance to answer. Evelyn, of course, surfaced like smoke at a fire. She gave interviews, calm and flawless, claiming moral outrage. "He broke the law," she said. "No one should play God." Behind her performance hid revenge, not justice. Maya saw it instantly. But the world didn't care for nuance. It preferred villains. And so Adrian became one. The man who saved hearts was accused of having none. The city that once adored him now whispered his name like a cautionary tale. That evening, Maya drove to his mansion despite every warning. She found him standing on the terrace, staring at the water, face lit by flashes from cameras across the lake. "You shouldn't be here," he said without turning. "Neither should you," she replied softly. The silence between them was heavy, full of words that never learned how to live outside the heart. He finally turned, eyes tired but gentle. "Do you still believe I did the right thing?" he asked. Maya stepped closer, her voice steady. "I believe you did what love demanded, and that's always the hardest kind of right." He smiled faintly, a crack of light in the ruin. "Then maybe there's still something left to save," he whispered. She took his hand, and for the first time, he didn't pull away. The cameras flashed brighter, catching two silhouettes against the lake, broken, defiant, and together. Somewhere behind them, the storm raged on, but inside, something quiet had survived. By the next morning, Maya's name was trending beside his. "Mystery paramedic involved in scandal," the headlines read. Her photo, smiling, unaware, was everywhere. Strangers online decided who she was, inventing stories about ambition and betrayal. Her supervisor called her in, voice trembling with regret. "You're suspended until further notice," he said. She nodded quietly, hiding the ache that bloomed behind her ribs. Loving Adrian had felt brave. Now it felt like a crime. Adrian tried to shield her, releasing a statement claiming she had nothing to do with his decisions. It only made things worse. Reporters now painted her as the secret behind his actions, the woman who had influenced the doctor's downfall. Every time Maya turned on the news, his face appeared beside Hayes, two lives tangled in a story neither of them had written. Truth had no value anymore. It was all about who shouted louder. That night, Adrian showed up at her apartment, wearing the same exhaustion as the day they met. "You shouldn't be seen here," she whispered. "I don't care," he said. For the first time, he looked truly lost. "They've taken everything I built, Maya, but the thought of losing you, that's what scares me." She wanted to tell him it would be fine, that storms pass, but this one had teeth. She simply took his hand, letting silence say what words couldn't. They spent the night talking about everything and nothing. Adrian confessed he'd thought love made him weak, but now he realized indifference was a real weakness. Maya told him she didn't care about titles, scandals, or wealth. She only wanted honesty. When dawn broke, the world outside hadn't changed, but something inside them had. They weren't hiding anymore. For once, love felt like rebellion, and they were both guilty by choice. But rebellion had consequences. Later that morning, a letter arrived at Maya's door. No return address, only a single line. Walk away before it destroys you too. She read it twice, heart pounding. Adrian found her holding it, face pale. It's starting again, he said quietly. Evelyn, she asked. He nodded, eyes darkening. She doesn't just want to ruin me, Maya. She wants to make sure I have nothing left to love. Evelyn arrived unannounced, as if she'd never left. Her heels echoed through the marble hallway of Adrian's mansion like a verdict. Maya was there, standing beside him when the door opened. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then Evelyn smiled, a perfect, poisonous curve. You always did like rescuing lost causes, she said, her gaze sliding to Maya. Tell me, does she know what kind of man you really are? Adrian's jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. Silence, he'd learned, could be both shield and punishment. Maya met Evelyn's eyes calmly, though her pulse raced. He's not the man you think he is, she said softly. No, Evelyn replied, stepping closer. His was. He hides his guilt behind noble intentions. She tossed a folder onto the table. Documents, photos, hospital records. Proof, she said. Adrian didn't even look. I know what I did, he said quietly, and I'd do it again. His voice was steady, stripped of defense. For the first time, Evelyn hesitated, anger flickering into something that looked like pain. Do you think breaking the law makes you a hero? She snapped. I think saving a life makes me human, Adrian answered. The tension in the room thickened like smoke. Evelyn turned to Maya. He'll destroy you too, she whispered. He doesn't know how to stop saving people, even when it kills them. Then she left, perfume fading but her words clinging like dust in sunlight. When the door closed, Maya finally exhaled, her hands trembling against the table. Adrian sank into a chair, running a hand through his hair. She's not wrong, he murmured. Everything I touch turns into a fight. Maya knelt beside him, eyes level with his. Then let me fight with you, she said. Her voice was calm but fierce. You can't keep saving the world alone. For a moment, his defenses cracked. Vulnerability flashed across his face like lightning before dawn. He whispered, You don't know what that means. Then show me, she replied. That night, the storm outside returned with the same fury as the one inside. Rain battered the windows. Thunder shook the air. Maya watched as Adrian stood by the glass, staring at the reflection of his own regret. She joined him silently, resting her head against his shoulder. Neither spoke. The world had turned against them, but somehow, in that chaos, they found peace. Outside, the city drowned in noise. Inside, their hearts beat in quiet defiance, daring the storm to try again. By sunrise, Evelyn's interview aired nationwide. Her voice was calm, rehearsed, deadly. She revealed everything. Adrian's secret surgery, the falsified reports, the cover-up. The world reacted in waves. Outrage, disbelief, fascination. But what caught everyone off guard was her confession at the end. He didn't do it for money, she said softly, eyes glistening. He did it for love, and that's what makes it unforgivable. The words sliced through the morning like glass through water. At the hospital, chaos erupted. Board members resigned, patient protested, and the media camped outside like predators. Maya tried to reach Adrian, but his phone went straight to voicemail. When she finally arrived at the mansion, the front door was ajar, lights still on. Papers littered the floor again. This time, the file from the surgery, the girl's name circled in red ink. On the desk lay a letter, written in his neat, tired handwriting. I can't fix what's broken, but I can still protect what matters.